Welcome back to the Clean Energy Edge, where I'm joined by my Canadian co-host, Brian Scott. Brian, how's Canada today?
Doing pretty well today. Nice day out. Can't complain.
Well, now you're bragging because it's chaos here in America, and it's becoming much more expensive every day in America. So we want to chat about that a little bit. And the topic being how a lot of people are starting to feel right now. That's rising electricity bills. Who was it? Trump. Yeah. He promised to bring these costs down. He even said he was going to bring these bills down by half. He was going to slash them. Here we are 8 months into his presidency, and prices are actually up on average across the nation 10%. And it's directly related to the policies that he has that's driving these costs up. So before we get into that, if you're new here, hey, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future episodes, because this issue, it's only getting bigger. So let's jump into it, and let's kind of start with the reality of it. Brian, I have brought the receipts. I have some notes here. So electricity bills, they're climbing everywhere. The average U.S. home is paying 10% more than in January. And some places that's an average. Some places it's worse than others. So Maine, it's pretty bad right now, 36% spike year over year. New Jersey, they saw their summer bills increase 17 to 20%. Florida, Tennessee, the Carolinas, they're starting to see some deep hikes coming their way. Year over year increase in June, just June, they're saying 6.7%. However, they calculated that in Reuters. So that's double the inflation. And this is really, I'm going to say, a pain point for voters heading into 2026. Could be a major or actually the driving conversation coming to midterms. So what's your take on what's going on here in the US of A?
It's one of those obvious things, right? It's supply and demand. We know the demand is growing. We know we're seeing greater grid strain. We knew that 5, 10 years ago. And they're playing politics to slow down a lot of development to offset that demand. And it just doesn't make any sense to anybody, but it's where we are in this very kind of divisive culture that we have right now. It doesn't matter if it's oil and gas you're holding back, or solar and wind, or whatever. You have these projects that are shovel ready, or in some cases, I know there's that wind project that on the East Coast there that's like ready to go almost, and then they've decided to shut it down. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. It makes no sense at all.
Yeah, it's very what's the word? Definitely political. And let's hit on your supply and demand, because we've talked about that, right? We brought that up. This is simple math. The demand is exploding, right? We've got data centers, AI, which I think we talked about AI a couple of weeks ago, and how that is just booming. 2 years ago it wasn't like this. Certainly wasn't 5 or 10 years ago. The overall electrification of the U.S., which is driving that baseline consumption. Extreme weather's not helping, right? We're seeing AC units having, oh gosh, they're running a lot more than what they used to, and the supply is not keeping up. So excellent point about that windshore or offshore wind project. Let's talk about that here a little bit more in a minute, but that's pretty much stopped, right? Yeah. And you also have aging coal plants that are retiring, nuclear plants, and they're trying to keep some of these coal plants online. We chatted about that in previous episodes. But the big driver is the kneecapping of clean energy projects. I think it's over 2,600 gigawatts of clean energy projects that were stuck in the queue anyways for interconnection before being able to move forward. And now I'm going to say, I don't know what the percentage will be, because that's still kind of being figured out, but a lot of those are going to be gone. All right. So you're spot on with that.
And when it's political policies that are supposed to be all about growth, all about the economy, the loss of jobs, the increase of costs of energy, it's madness, right? It's going to catch up on itself. There's no way it doesn't, from my perspective, whether it's Trump's term or somewhere else, where they just all of a sudden kind of go, okay, well, we need to deal with this. Instead of this theory of getting all these new coal plants online in a short period of time, which is a pipe dream. They're not going to get the investment unless Trump directly wants to invest himself. It's just not going to happen, and it's going to get worse. Like over the next couple of years, it's going to get worse and worse and worse unless it's dealt with. And is there absolutely no appetite for this? Is there anyone at the switch that sees the problem and sees what's going on? Is there going to be enough pushback? Is this going to be maybe a midterm issue? It's hard to say.
I'm seeing a lot of articles. At first, I thought it was my algorithm, but then I just started checking checking Google, and there are a ton of articles about electricity and the supply demand issues. It's like you said, it's basic economics. When the demand surges and supply is constrained, prices rise, and we're starting to see that. The I think we mentioned it a while back in May. The Department of Energy ordered an old coal-fired plant that was supposed to be retired in Michigan to stay online. Memorial Day or something. That was when it was supposed to be shut down. It is, I can't remember the number, but it was millions and millions of dollars just to keep this thing running because it's falling apart like a lot of these are.
Sure.
And they're keeping them up and they're still generating, but again, higher prices for those electricity consumers.
Right. Right. I mean, and there's not much you can really do, right? When something's past its expected lifespan, it becomes very expensive to maintain. What else do you do?
Yeah.
What you just throw money at it to keep it going because you don't have the option of losing the grid. It's a tough situation. It's hard to believe we're here when we knew we were going to be here.
Yeah, anybody who's been in the industry, this is not a surprise. I mean, I talk to a lot of folks, I know you do too, that are in power generation, and they're all like, yeah, we knew this was coming and nobody did anything about it. I mean, before I'll call it Trump's war on renewables, we had some backstop against that. Easily deployable, quick to get on, and certainly cost effective. But I mean, it seems this administration, they're not just ignoring the problem; they're actively making it worse with this war.
They just keep stating publicly that it's the fault of renewables that we're here. And you can, if you have a strong enough base, maybe you can push that and push that and push that. But eventually somebody's going to see through that. Well, I mean, obviously a lot of people see through it, but eventually even the people that don't, eventually most of them are going to figure it out. And I don't know. If Trump just figures I'm not going to be around, so I'm not going to be the one holding the bag, that's fine. But everyone else pays for it, and including elected officials, I would say.
Yeah, he's called renewables the scam of the century, and he's placed a block to new wind and solar projects. That project that you mentioned, he just ordered it stopped, right? I want to say it's 350,000 homes that were going to be powered by this. It was supposed to be generating in spring. I think it was like 70% or so, maybe more complete, is about done. So you have however much money was invested there, and what's going to happen? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there'll be lawsuits, but we've seen how those have gone here in the U.S. this year, 2025. There was a transmission line project that would have, I think they were projecting. I got a note here for that. The Grain Belt Express transmission line project that would have delivered $52 billion in consumer savings over 15 years. They had their $4.9 billion Department of Energy loan, not a grant, a loan, revoked. That was going to tie into renewable projects, clean energy projects.
Yeah.
It wasn't a handout. This was a loan they were paying back. And that loan was revoked. The big billionaire bill, of course, and we've talked about that. The Michigan. Here's that note. That coal plant, J.H. Campbell coal plant, which doesn't mean anything to me, but it was slated to close. It's being kept online at a cost of, they're saying, $1 million a day. $1 million a day. That's all passed through to ratepayers. So when you take the cheapest and fastest growing sources of energy and double down on expensive, aging infrastructure, I mean, the result's predictable. It's going to be higher prices.
It's very true. It's very true. I don't even completely know what to say. This all feels so predictable, so obvious. It's it's like raising taxes and not expecting people to pay more. I don't know. It's supply and demand is a very understood concept. We knew the problem was coming. We see this. We see rising costs with everything being a massive concern, and people don't really have the option of avoiding energy costs. Right? It's just not one of those things you can not pay, or you turn the lights off.
Right. People are having to choose, what am I going to pay for? I've got so much money. It's fine. I most people are on a budget, right? And you got certain essentials. Groceries are becoming much more expensive. I think someone said 40% increase. I want to say it's this year, but even if it was since, a year, 2 years, whatever, that's a pretty
Yeah.
damn big jump. So are we going to eat, or are we going to keep the lights on? Unfortunately, some people are having to make those hard decisions.
Yeah. It's you wonder if another, I mean, we've talked about another big crash for a lot of years now, and you wonder if a big market crash or crash of some sort is coming. I mean, people are, if you can't pay for those bills, you're not going to be paying your mortgage, you're not going to be paying your rent. All these things are cascading effects, right? And the market has been so hot for so long, very artificially, most would say, I think.
You're talking the
That
stock market.
Yeah, I'm talking the stock market, but also like, the housing market, the general kind of Main Street impacts. It feels somewhat inevitable that things are about to hit some really rocky roads ahead.
Yeah, I don't think I can. I have zero faith at this point in the stock market, because you got the overall economy, and I've always looked at the stock market as an indicator, right? It's typically been I guess I want to say a pretty decent indicator of how the economy is doing. I don't think it's reflective at this point. I think it's probably months behind, and it doesn't seem like the market today is being as realistic as markets years before.
Yep.
I don't know. That's just kind of how I see it.
Yep. If
Uh,
this is the way to get the interest rates drops, it seems like it's going to work. Seems like that's being actively talked about now in the U.S. and in Canada. It seems like interest rate drops are going to happen. Um, will be a bit of a battle with inflation, I'm sure, with some of these issues that are going on, but it does feel inevitable.
yeah, it's going to happen. I mean, whenever Powell just hinted late last week, whatever, Thursday or Friday, that they would maybe drop interest rates next month, the market took off, right? It shot up. It's more off of feelings and emotion right now, as opposed to actual data. But the data says things cost more. Electricity is costing a lot more.
Yeah.
With your perspective, what do you see this? Because I'm kind of seeing it, and I want you to check me here. I see this as probably a pretty massive political issue going into the midterms next year. I mean, they're already framing this as Trump sabotaging, the cheapest sources of new power. Republicans, I've seen them. They're the Secretary of Energy or whatever. He's saying this is all because of the policy of Biden, right? It's finally caught up to the grid, how much how terrible clean energy, solar and wind are. I think Trump said that states that have solar and wind have the highest electricity bills, and that's just not true.
Sure.
I mean, it's blatantly false. But
It's just shocking. Like I think it has to become a midterm issue, and I think we're at a point in time where any political party can reframe something that they caused as the fault of another party. Um, Everybody just seems to kind of be in their lane. Um, but The only real surprising part for me is that the Republicans didn't frame this in a sense of with like a plan. You know what I mean? Like we're saying prices are going up. We're saying renewables are causing this, and we're going to accelerate the development of natural gas, yada, yada, yada. They haven't really done that. There's just been like all this talk of like, oh, let's get clean coal back and stuff like that. But that feels so, I don't even feel like anybody's buying that. But like, you know what I mean? Like a tangible plan, whether I think it's the right plan or not, that could at least address the issues feels like such low hanging fruit. If that's what they really believe, that's what they really want to support, and it's just shocking. I don't know any other way to put it.
You're right. It's one thing if they would have said, we don't like clean energy, and here's why. We think, you know, they go through their laundry list of mostly false narratives. But all right, say what you want. Here's why we don't like it. But there's not a plan other than saying coal or fossil fuels or drill baby drill. But what does that actually mean? Because there's no real path forward there, and that goes back to the, you know, steam generators availability. I talked with a colleague this morning. I said, hey, I'm still hearing 5 and 7 year lead times for steam turbines. Is that right? Are you hearing anything different? He goes, I'm hearing at least that. So you build a plant tomorrow, you get a plant ready tomorrow, you're still not going to have the turbines to generate the electricity till 2030, 2032.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. It's true. Like forward thinking is such a major part of this, and it felt like while the Biden administration didn't make things happen fast enough with all of their clean energy and just grid buildup that was required, they were trying to do something. You know what I mean? And they accomplished some things, but they were trying to do something where it just feels like they're trying to do nothing and then just want to blame the predecessor. Like I don't know. I don't know what your plan is if you plan to win a second term. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to advocate or have the conversation about Trump 2028, but the Republicans in general have to have the intention of keeping the White House and keeping Congress past the midterms. At a certain point, you can't just say it was the last guy. Like you have to have a plan somewhere.
I 100% agree. And we're just not seeing that. It's so much emotion, and I mean, you listen to what they say, and there's no truth in a lot of these things that are being said. It's very clear whenever we're talking about electricity prices and the supply demand. They've not thought this through one little bit, and people are starting to see it with the prices going up. Right. I see all kind of, like I said, the articles. You can go on social media, and it's real easy to find people complaining about their electricity bill, having a 2,500 square foot home and having a $1,200 electricity bill. I saw that one just the other day. So they're starting to feel it, but it hasn't hit yet. It's kind of like the tariffs. People are kind of starting to see, all right, yeah, we're paying a little bit more. I don't know, maybe this administration is kind of thinking of it as like that frog in the water, and it's starting to boil. You don't realize until, you're cooked. Maybe it's just, they're thinking, all right, people won't notice. It'll just do a little bit, and all of a sudden, boom, and they're already used to it, and less chance of any pushback. But I don't see that. I see people getting pretty upset already.
Yeah, I'm not, how would I say this? I'm not really, I'm not it gets harder and harder, I hate to say it, for me to rationally understand the average voter, whether it be in Canada or the US. There tends to be that, I think back in the day, for the longest time, it was always kind of like, we have a problem now. It's the person in charge's fault. Even if it was something that, needed to be dealt with for a decade or whatever, and it was a buildup, whatever. Now it just feels like you can frame that any way you like. You know what I mean? It's somebody else's fault no matter what. I voted for this guy. I believe in this guy. And I mean, as somebody like myself who really likes to think of themselves in the middle and blaming both sides and advocating for both sides in a lot of ways, thinking the solutions are generally in the middle somewhere, it's hard to know what to say. You know what I mean? I don't. I feel myself being much more speechless on these topics than I normally am, and I'm generally quite long-winded. But I just, it's you know you have to deal with something. You know you need to provide more power to the grid, more grid space, upgraded distribution and transmission lines. You need smarter grids. You need so much grid edge battery. You need so many of these things. Unless your plan is to deport enough people that that balances out the load, I don't know what your solution is. Like it's like maybe that is the most rational explanation for a lot of this behavior, right? Is deport 10% of the population and don't allow these clean energy projects to come online, and suddenly slowly gets there. Well, while most countries, first world countries, are growing in population and have all these issues, you just keep shrinking, and maybe that solves your problem. I mean, economically, that's very difficult to grow an economy while shrinking. But other than that, that maybe there's logic there. I don't know.
I, I don't think there's any logic whatsoever. I think everything is just run off of emotion. I think
Yeah.
the fossil fuel industries are paying. I mean, let's just call it what it is. I mean, they're buying their way into the White House. That's pretty common now. I think they've been doing it for decades. But in the big billionaire bill, not only did they gut most of the clean energy tax incentives and those types of things, they actually added more for fossil fuels, like they need any more help, right? So I think it's all about who's getting paid, and damn everybody else that has to deal with it. Um, that's just what it really seems like for a lot of people, and a lot of people just aren't understanding that now. So, I think when we see even higher prices, where it's affecting people saying, "All right, now I really having problems. This bill is going up and up and up. And plus I've got these other costs with groceries. Gas prices had dropped, but they're where I'm at here in Greater Cleveland. They're jumping back up. I think there was a refinery that was down for some issues. So supply and demand there too, right? Um, I just am not sure, Brian, that a lot of people will connect the dots, because a lot of people don't want to connect those dots. But a lot of people just aren't close enough to it, until they start seeing that bill and they're like, oh, damn, how am I going to pay for this? Whatever, I've got to pay for this too. It's a mess. I don't know. Closing thoughts on this one, Brian?
It's probably one of our more depressing episodes, isn't it? It's I feel like so many things we talk about, whether there's problems or whatnot, it feels optimistic almost. Um, this feels so negative. It feels like there isn't a solution out. I don't know. Like there's obviously a solution out, but we don't seem to want to find it.
Yeah. If I'm the silver lining, I'll say in this, and it's going to be tough for residential folks, because at the end of this year, end of 2025, those tax incentives go away, right? For clean energy systems. Now batteries are still in. I'm talking the generation piece. For CNI, they still have a little bit of time that they could correct this, and still take advantage of the tax incentives. But it really comes down to the consumers are the ones who are going to pay either higher electricity prices off the grid, paying more for a clean energy system, but end up saving money in the long run, just not being able to take advantage of those tax incentives, um, or run into blackout brownout situations, which that's coming too. I mean, we're going to see it. I mentioned, I think a couple weeks ago, I've got an app now where I'm tracking across the U.S., all of the outages, and my phone It gives me an alert every time there is one. And it's starting just to go up a little bit since I've had it on installed for about a month now. So we're starting to see it, but I agree. There is some things that can be done. I just don't know if people are going to realize in time to take advantage of the tax incentives that are still available.
Yeah. Yeah. It feels very limited that way. And it feels like when you can dissuade people from making certain investments in certain things, whether it be clean energy or grid projects, and use it as a political motivator to make your point, whether you're making it completely ridiculously or not. It's kind of where we are.
Yeah. I mean, here's the takeaway, right? Demand is rising, supply is constrained, and instead of unleashing the cheap, scalable, clean energy, this is administration's really throttled it back. They're choking it, and that's driving up cost for everyone. But we're going to be here. We're going to keep on this and see what's happening. I mean, it's going to take an act of Congress to really change the policy, and I don't see that happening for the next few years, no matter what happens. These prices are headed one way, and that's up. The longer it keeps going, I think the angrier the voters are going to get. So
Yeah.
we'll see. Sorry, this is such a downer to everybody, but I mean, we're keeping it real too. So
Yeah.
we're gonna let you know what's going on. So do us a solid. If you haven't already subscribe to Clean Energy Edge. You can get it on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, any of those. I'll catch you on the next episode. Thanks, guys.